Hello, I'm Laura McCracken. I'm here at Merchant Payment Ecosystem hosting the Voice of MPE, and I'm excited to have Antonio Suarez from Worldline here to talk to me today about an exciting development, Wero.
Thank you.
So
Laura.
before I jump into that, first tell me about your role and what is Worldline.
Thanks, Laura. Great to be here with you. So I've been with Worldline for 12 years now. I'm heading up the business development of our processing and financial institutions. So I'm very focused on helping the whole payments community in enabling payments. And we do end-to-end payments as a company. We support acquirers, we support merchants, we support PSPs, fintechs, but banks as well, in everything to do with payments. So we do card payments, we do account payments, we do open banking, we do authentication, which is very important for payments, as you know, fraud. So we actually cover the whole range. And as clients, we have a wide range of clients. We support consumer type applications, so like digital wallets. We support infrastructures, card schemes. So we provide technology to a lot of the infrastructures in Europe. And so we're really in the end-to-end business. We're a mixture between an engineering company. We develop our own software, but then we host the applications. We have our own private cloud. We call it the European Sovereign Cloud, where we run all our infrastructure. And so we try to develop everything to do with payments internally.
Excellent. Are you an engineer?
I am actually.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
Yeah, I am.
It's a risky question to
a
ask.
Physics engineer, in fact, but moved to IT a long time ago, and now I'm in sales.
So you're at home. Good company for you. Fantastic.
Thank you.
And how did you guys get involved with Wero?
So Wero is a long-standing project, in fact, by some of the largest banks in Europe. I think it started maybe 7 or 8 years ago. So the idea of a European payment scheme has always been in people's minds. And it's a kind of a up and down situation. Sometimes it's more pressing to make it happen. Sometimes it's less pressing. So we got involved very early on, together with some of the largest banks in Europe. And in fact, we are a shareholder of the European Payments Initiative, which is the owner of the Wero wallet. So together with another 14 major banks in Europe, Worldline and another PSP, Nexi, we are the founding members, we are a shareholder. And more importantly than that, we are a very keen promoter of the payment scheme. So sovereignty was a topic. It's still a topic today. But also efficiency in the payment rails and control, and to be able to offer best services, more resilient to consumers. This is kind of how the whole thing started.
Absolutely. And can you tell me a little bit about the vision of Wero?
So Wero is, so there's a lot of country level payment wallets, right? And these have become incredibly popular. So I think even outside of Europe, PIX and UPI in India demonstrated that there is a need, and it's possible to actually generate adoption very fast with payment wallets. What is slightly differentiating about Wero is that it's a pan-European consortium, right? So you have very successful wallets in Portugal, Spain, Italy, Poland, the Nordics, but this one is actually pan-European by nature. And it's using a public infrastructure at its core, which is the SEPA instant payments rails, which has been mandated in the Eurozone last year. So all the banks had to migrate to SEPA Inst. So the infrastructure is there, the plumbing is there. So banks can build things on top. And one of the things that were built, for example, is Ideal in the Netherlands, where they built a very successful wallet, and this Ideal wallet has been then acquired by Wero, and they become part of Wero. So it's this infrastructure that is really generating this possibility to create this pan-European wallet. And Wero really is becoming between the Benelux, so Belgium, Netherlands, and Luxembourg, France, and Germany. Major institutions have agreed to work together to create this alternative scheme. So there's two levels to the scheme, if you like. So there's a wallet that allow you to move money around, to pay at a shop, to pay at e-commerce or face-to-face. We will maybe discuss the roadmap a little bit later. But then at the back, the money is transferred through SEPA Inst. And because all the European banks in the Eurozone are connected already to TIPS, then the settlement can be done seamlessly and in real time. So this enables a lot of new services that can be built on top of this.
That's the base. I know Ideal is quite famous. Are there other wallets that you could mention that are included in the?
Yeah, so adoption of Wero was fast because they managed to onboard existing wallets already. So they have more than 45 million users already, which for such a short-lived wallet is huge.
Yeah.
So they migrated Paylib in France, which was basically a P2P and also e-commerce wallet. Payconic in Belgium, which was established already, well established, and then Ideal in the Netherlands. And so these three become the core adoption in those countries. In Germany, it's slightly different. So in Germany, they didn't really have a very large-scale wallet yet. So this is going to be the challenge to see how the German market reacts.
It's amazing. And so what is the roadmap for Rollout?
Right. So they started P2P, as most wallets started, just to try to get adoption and consumers to actually install the app and get ready to send money, split bills. Also P2 Pro, they call it P2 Pro, like person to professional. So you as a merchant, a small merchant, for example, is able to give you your phone number and I'll just send you money to pay for something. So this is also a kind of a small use case for face-to-face. So they started that in 2024. During 2025, they just worked on increasing the adoption there and starting getting ready for e-commerce. So 2026 is all about e-commerce. So they have a roadmap between Germany, Belgium, France throughout the year to roll out e-commerce. And at the end of the year, they want to go face-to-face, right? So this is going to be quite an interesting aspect because they want to do QR code payments and NFC as an option. And NFC is seen as very critical for face-to-face adoption because there's a lot of options out there already. And so if they want to be competing for the consumer, then contactless is very important. And then, 2027, 2028, you can see them thinking about introducing value-added services on top. So not just a simple purchase, but you want to do things like subscriptions, you want to do things like scheduling payments. So doing all the things that you can do with an app, that it's much more difficult to do with a card, right? And actually introducing value-added services that will enable adoption.
Amazing. And what about, it's quite controversial in the UK, but digital identity?
Yeah. Look, digital identity, it's no coincidence that everything is moving at the same time, right? So the European Union established SEPA and the SEPA Inst and so on. Digital identity, digital euro, and the wallets, they're all kind of linked together, right? This will be important, not essential, but I think it will be important. I think you can imagine in the next few years, most of the authentication methods in these wallets being migrated to a digital wallet authentication. So I think it will play a role. It's not essential. It's not in the way. It's not a blocker, but it's an essential element, I think, of trust and to be able for the future. Agentic commerce is coming, so all of these things are connected.
We talked about that the other day. Agentic commerce. I mean, it's not going to go anywhere unless you have a proper digital identity. So.
Yeah, exactly.
That's interesting. So it could be part of the solution.
Yeah, indeed.
Yeah. Yeah. And so how are merchants feeling about this? What's in it for a merchant?
Yeah, right. So a merchant will see this as a new scheme. So it's important to understand this is a four-corner model scheme. So it will be, on one side, familiar to them. In the countries where we're talking about, it will be very familiar to them because they already do it. So they are looking at it as a new way of payment, right? As yet a new.
When you say a new scheme, let me just interrupt you here. So not everyone is aware of what that means, but you're talking about a new Visa or MasterCard, a new scheme.
Essentially, yes.
New rails.
It's a new rail. It's a new scheme, whatever we want to call it, but it has all the
Bank to
characteristics.
bank, and
it's A to A.
A to A.
It's A to A.
Account to account.
No physical plastic.
Yeah.
So there's no card. It's an A to A scheme. But the reason I would like to call it a scheme is it really has all the characteristics of a scheme. So it has a consumer protection mechanism for dispute management. It has the four-corner model. It's got your traditional scheme fees, which nobody likes, of course, but they are important to keep it going. And it's got remuneration for the various stakeholders, right? So there is an incentive to use that scheme. So to me, that's a scheme. It's not a card scheme, but it's a payment scheme, full-fledged for all the ecosystem.
I like to think in threes. So if you can tell me 3 reasons why a merchant should adopt Wero.
Well, they will adopt Wero if the consumer wants to pay with Wero, right?
Consumer demand.
Consumer
We don't
demand.
know if that's going to exist yet.
But I'm sure you're going to ask me that question afterwards. So that's going to be the key thing.
What about cost?
So the cost is an interesting aspect, right? So this is a well-known dynamics, and this is why it's important to name it as a scheme. It's the same reason why they will have Visa or MasterCard. If the consumer wants, and if it's cost effective, they might even promote it, right? So
That's what we need.
the Wero colleagues are very well aware of those dynamics. And then there's the kind of I think for the merchant is the possibility to integrate Wero as a full digital means of payment into their journeys, right? So I think it could enable different types of services like loyalty, so embedding that into the wallet. So it really opens up more options for merchants.
Interesting. What about speed?
Yeah, I mean, the speed of adoption will be important, and this is where we can.
Speed of payment. Is it faster than the scheme rails?
This is going to be interesting, right? So it works in a different way, right? Fundamentally, at the point of sale, it has to be the same. So this is why they want to do the NFC, right? So this is why I was saying it's so important to go for the NFC, which is the fastest possible way. And it's super reliable. The devices are already capable of doing this, right? So it's a proven thing. So anything less than that will be a problem, I think, for the merchants, of course, and for the shops.
Great. Okay. Well, that's one. Now I'll end it on my favorite topic, which is the customer. So what's in it for the customer? Why should customers adopt the Wero versus anything else?
So the Wero, I think there's many different perspectives here, but I think the customer must have a real benefit in using it. So the banks, the consumer, they don't call it the issuer, they call it the consumer PSP, which is the bank, which holds the account. The bank will have some incentive to push this to their consumer. So it starts there, right? So if the bank promotes it, and you can imagine all sorts of things. Again, going back to loyalty and some specific promotions to make sure people use it. I think in the initial stages, until people are used to using it, I think it will require some marketing, some branding, and some incentive, some real incentive. And then the customer will use it. Then the customer will use it if they're, and I think this is where the card schemes were so successful. What kind of value-added services do you have? Talk about loyalty, of course, but insurance, products behind it, like installments, buy now, pay later. So all these things which can be associated with that means of payment will become essential. So the scheme has to evolve and to create this ecosystem, the same way that the large card schemes have done throughout the years. So this is going to be very important for the adoption. I think there's, a bit of a emotional thing going on about, using a European scheme. I think that's important. And I think at some point that could play a role. Yeah. Maybe not the major role, but I think it's an important thing. And then, I think it's all about how easy it is to use it. Yeah. Is it double click on your phone and tap? Or is it not going to be convenient?
Yeah.
I think those things are all...
From a personal perspective, it's about speed, cost, convenience, safety, but the emotional impact does matter to me. Right. I do feel a sense, I know I have an American accent, but I live in Europe now. I've been in London for the last 25 years, and I do want to have a national wallet. So I think it feels good.
There's that side. I think that's a good one. And of course, I mean, you mentioned quite rightly security and the trust, right? So, but, this, like your sticker, we are Europe. I think this kind of stuff can help.
I got it today. I was walking through the MPE and they gave this to me. I felt honored.
That's very good. And so maybe I think it's also important to see how Worldline can help in this, right? So so here we're quite uniquely positioned, as I said in the beginning. So we have a very large merchant base, and we're supporting more than 1 million merchants across Europe. So we are an enabler of Wero. So we can very quickly, if a merchant wants to adopt it, we have the technology and we have the service, we have the license. So we are a member of Wero. So we can enable the payment scheme very quickly. We can support banks, acquiring banks that want to add Wero their scheme. So again, we have the technology because we own the technology rather than just being a member. But we can also support the banks from the consumer side because we can provide them all the technology, the issuing type technology that they require to authorize a transaction, to authenticate the transaction, and then to actually settle the transaction because we are a TIPS participant as well. So we're a technical access into TIPS rather. And so we can actually do the whole flow,
right,
including the mobile wallet, which you actually need. So this is quite an interesting position for us.
Got it. Interesting. Great. Okay. Any last comments on this? I mean, I'm personally excited about it. So I hope you are.
No, I mean, I think we covered it. I think the challenge, and I think what will be quite interesting to see how it develops is how will they, EPI, how will they actually create the incentives to make it happen? So the next few months will be quite critical. I think there's a few things happening at the same time which can slow them down or speed them up a little bit. Depends how you see it. Like the digital euro coming in, a lot of initiatives on stablecoin. But I'm very interested to see how it will actually go outside the Eurozone. Because if you really want to create a payment scheme, it needs to go outside the Eurozone. And there's a lot of conversations about interoperability right now.
Yeah.
So how do you make Wero, talk to Bizum, to Vips Mobile Pay, to Blink? And then, of course,
Swish.
How do you settle without non-euro currencies, with currency conversion? All the complexities that the large payment schemes have, they will need to be introduced into the Wero at some point.
Absolutely. But we do have a bit of a burning platform. We got to move fast.
We got to move fast.
Get ready for agentic commerce and everything else that's coming on. Excellent. Well, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Laura.
And it's been a pleasure seeing you again. Thank you.
Pleasure. Thank you.